Today, your money can be your future. So by dialing *292 hash the USSD code on the MTN SIM card, you can definitely start your investment journey. How possible is that? In the next 24 hours after registration with your NIN, the National Identification Number, you can definitely open up an account with Zabu with no hassle in any way. Zabu says, my money, my future. Markets on the Zabu platform, which is powered by Altex East Africa, do open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. That is how fast and easily you can invest in these particular markets. And also, on the other hand, these markets are not open during weekends, nor are they open during public holidays, but you can choose any preferred bond that you choose to invest in case you are starting your investment journey. That's Zabu for you. My money, my future. Zabu is powered by Altex East Africa, which reminds you to do something new. And the only good new thing you can do before the year ends or at the start of the year is to invest in these particular government bonds by using Zabu as a platform. Karibu East Africa, habari yeleo. Hope you are okay today. Now let's switch our eyes to what is making headlines across the East African Community region, and of which we start with Tanzania. Now Tanzania targets upper middle income status by 2050. If you were to remember so well, in 2020, Tanzania graduated from a low income economy to a lower middle income country, first of its kind here in East Africa. Now, a new development blueprint is on the cards as planners seek to propel Tanzania to upper middle income status by 2050. The government did reveal this over earlier on at the beginning of the week. Now, Tanzania graduated from a low income to a lower middle income country, like I did mention, in July 2020, after its gross national income per capita crossed the $1,036 mark. Currently, the country's gross national income per capita stands at 1,140 according to the World Bank data, which was revealed in Parliament last month by the Finance Minister and Planning Minister Mwigulu Nchemba, the gentleman whom you've just seen in there. Now, he was responding to fears that Tanzania had slipped back to low-income status. That is the Finance and Planning Minister in Tanzania, Mr. Mwigulu Nchemba, Honorable. And he was responding to fears that Tanzania had slipped back to low-income status. So to graduate to an upper middle-income country, the country's per capita gross national income will have to be between $4,046 and $12,535 US, according to the World Bank's 2021 classifications. Now, the Commissioner for National Planning in the Ministry of Finance and Planning, that is Dr. Mosali Milanzi, said that the government had started preparing the 2015 National Development Vision that will guide Tanzania to the upper middle income status. Dr. Milanzi, who was speaking during the National Planners Conference of 2022, said the government was currently seeking opinions from various stakeholders to make the new development blueprint inclusive and meaningful. The new development vision, whose implementation will start during the 2026 to 2027 financial year, is set to build onto the current development vision of 2025, which is in its final stage of implementation. Now, currently, the country's third five-year national development plan, which covers the period from financial year 2021 to 2025-2026, is being implemented in Tanzania. It envisages the increasing Tanzania production capacity, the building a competitive economy that will stimulate the country's participation in trade and investment, as well as stimulating human capital development. That is Tanzania for you. Now, away from Tanzania, we switch our eyes to Kenya as KQ, Kenyan Airways and Royal Air Maroc reactivate code share partnership in an agreement that will see the two airlines get back onto their feet. So when you look at this, KQ and the RAM, that is the Royal Air Maroc, did sign an agreement yesterday to resume their code-share partnership previously initiated in 2016 and discontinued in 2019. No, not yesterday. The agreement wasn't signed yesterday, earlier on in the week. So under the new agreement, Royal Air Maroc passengers will be able to travel to Nairobi, Zanzibar, and Johannesburg on the Kenya Airways network. So Kenya Airways passengers will benefit from its network connection to the cities of Casablanca and Marrakesh, Morocco, as well as from the possibilities offered by the Moroccan national airline in terms of onward international travel through its hub in Casablanca. Now, Mr. Julius Thairu, Kenya Airways' Chief Commercial and Customer Officer, revealed that they are happy to see this partnership reactivated, as it will provide their travelers with improved connectivity options between the two hubs, Nairobi and Casablanca. Then their customers will be able to enjoy the financial center of Casablanca and the tourist destination of Marrakesh. So the Royal Air Maroc currently operates 3 weekly frequencies to Accra, that is Ghana, from Casablanca, and will add 3 flights through its code share with Kenya Airways to Nairobi, linking Accra to Johannesburg, that is South Africa, and Zanzibar, Tanzania. So Kenya Airways currently operates 7 weekly flights between Nairobi and Accra. This new partnership will enable it to offer 3 flights per week to Casablanca and Marrakesh via Accra, that is the capital of West Africa's Ghana. And lastly, from Karibu, East Africa, we look at a report in Rwanda where over 250,000 Rwandan youth are suitable for global business service. This comes after this report did reveal that more than 254 youth in Rwanda are qualified for the global business service and the business process outsourcing for hire, although they are among 731,000 out of work youth, according to a new report that was disclosed in Kigali. Now, the Rwanda Global Business Service case study and special country report has highlighted Rwanda's potential to become a global business destination over the next 5 years. Business process outsourcing is a business practice in which an organization contracts with an external service provider to perform an essential business function or task. Now, sometimes called the next stage of evolution for the outsourcing model. The business, if you look at this particular study, is basically defined as an integrated end-to-end set of capabilities which are delivered globally to enterprise clients by a service provider. Now, Rwanda has an estimated 4 million youth population between the ages of 18 and 35. Majority of them are between the ages of 18 and 20. Although Rwanda has made progressive gains in its socio-economic trajectory, the report shows that the youth unemployment rate is at a significant 21%, and on average across the entire country. So that's the unemployment rate, 21% in Rwanda. And today it shows there are more than 731,000 youth that are in the labor force but yet to find employment within Rwanda. Now, out of those unemployed youth, more than 201,000 have an upper secondary, high school, TVET, teaching diploma or a university qualification, making them quite eligible for global business service and business processing outsourcing in that report. And that is it for Karibu, East Africa. With that, now let's switch our eyes to the SMB International News. We'll be back. Now, as we switch our eyes to the SMB International News, we switch off to Libya, as Oil Libya has invited foreign companies to resume exploration and production in the sector. The Libyan National Oil Company, NOC, has called on foreign companies active in the hydrocarbon sector to resume exploration and production operations, citing an improved security situation. Now, the state of force measure is a measure evoked in exceptional circumstances, allowing an exception from the responsibility of the Libyan National Oil Company, or in this case, companies operating in Libya, in case of failure to meet contractual obligations. Over the past decade, Libya has been regularly plagued by violent clashes between rival factions in the east and west, which has affected the exploitation of oil fields and the transport of hydrocarbons and oil terminals, which are caught between these two camps. Now, the National Oil Company explained that it launched this appeal after having carried out an assessment of the security situation and noted a dramatic improvement in some cities where it was difficult to operate. The National Oil Company, on the other hand, urged foreign companies to resume their operations within Libya, as this is going to be supporting exploration and extraction, assuring them that they would provide them with all the necessary support so that they could work in a safe environment. Now, in cooperation with the civilian and military authorities on the spot, if you're to look closely, nearly 11 years after the fall of Muammar el-Gaddafi, which was the most, Libya which was the most abundant oil reserve in Africa, remains torn between rival factions in the east and the west against the backdrop of foreign interference. Now, since March, two governments have been fighting for power, one based in Tripoli, that is west of the country, and then that is the one recognized by the United Nations. Then the other supported by parliament and the camp of Marshal Khalifa Haftar, the strongman of the eastern part of Libya. Now, the day after his appointment in mid-July as head of the national oil company in Libya, Fahad Begendara announced the lifting of a blockade on 6 major oil fields and terminals, which closed since mid-April by groups close to the eastern camp. Then in early November, he said his country was seeking to increase its production to 2 million barrels per day, almost doubling from the current level of 1.2 million barrels a day. That's Libya for you. 11 years back, ever since Muammar el-Gaddafi did pass on, the government has been definitely struggling, and on the other hand, the country's economy also on the verge of facing situations that are not capable to support any economic activity within that. Now we head to the western part of Africa, as Ghana is set to swap local debt in fight to regain economic stability, as the year hasn't been a good one for the Ghanaians. Ghana asked investors to exchange around $9 billion in domestic debt for new bonds on Monday, that is 5th December. So earlier, that was to ease a crunch in payments as the government negotiates an IMF bailout during its worst economic crisis in decades. The finance minister, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, said the debt exchange starting Monday would seek to exchange around 137 billion cedis or $9.7 billion in current debt for 4 new bonds maturing between 2027 and 2037. The West African state is in talks for up to $3 billion in credit from the International Monetary Fund to help shore up its public finances. But not only that, inflation is running at more than 40%, and the national currency, the cedi, has lost 50% in value this year, helping to push up debt by $6 billion in 2022. As part of the International Monetary Fund negotiations, Ghana's government is apparently seeking to make its debt more sustainable after facing different warnings about the risks of default. Well, inflation is set to return to single digits if you're to look at this. The current debt servicing payments are absorbing more than half of what the government's revenues and 70% of its tax revenues as well, pressuring government spending in the way around. So with the debt operation and the International Monetary Fund deal to be concluded soon, the minister said he expected the economy to stabilize next year and that inflation is set to return to single digits. Ghana, which is a top cocoa and gold producer, has oil and gas reserves, but its debt payments are high and its revenues are quite weak. Like the rest of the world, it has been hit by the economic fallout from the global pandemic and the war in Ukraine, if you are to look at that. Now, Ofori-Atta said that government had worked to minimize the swap impact on investors holding government bonds, especially small investors and the other vulnerable groups within Ghana. And lastly, from the SMB International News, we look at the growth of 5.7% in the West African Economic and Monetary Union in 2022. A new report and study has found that there has been a growth rate within the countries of the West African Economic and Monetary Union, which amounted to 5.7% in 2022, down 0.4% compared to 2021. This was announced at the leaders of this organization meeting in Abidjan that was held on Monday. Now, the 8 member countries include Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, there is Ivory Coast, Togo, Benin, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, who have not been spared by the deep crisis that have affected the whole world, and in particular, the consequences of the war in Ukraine at the same time as the economies are recovering from the shock of the crisis related to COVID. That is according to the Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara. So in addition to the growth rate, which has slowed from 6.1% in 2021 to 5.7% in 2020, inflation within the union has risen from 3.6% to 7.5% in 2022, according to Ouattara, adding that its member countries had nevertheless shown serious resilience. Now, noting that the security situation was worrying because of the increasing number of terrorist attacks in several of these particular West African Economic and Monetary Union states, in particular Burkina Faso and Mali. But when you look at what was pointed out, that some of the expenditure that should that should have been allocated to education and health has been allocated to defense and security. So the issue to do with political instability has led governments to overstretch, seeking for supplementary budgets that would be solving other issues, but now to create room for security and peace within their different countries and the neighboring areas in the region. Now, the Abidjan summit was held the day after the Abuja summit of the 15 member countries of ECOWAS, to which the members of the Monetary Union in West Africa also belong to, which decided to create a regional force to intervene not only against jihadism, but also in the event of a coup d'etat, as the region has experienced several others over the past 2 years. So this is something that the entire region wants to work against, to ensure that there is peace and stability, to show that if we are to continue doing business within any region, peace and stability has to be reinstated. So countries have to be safe, that there is no room for war or terror that will actually create room for tension and suspense to how people will be surviving within times of hardships in that particular situation that is coming in from West Africa. But not only that, several African countries are suffering from the spread of jihadism from northern Mali to central Mali, then Burkina Faso and Niger, and then southwards of the Gulf of Guinea. The national armies are largely powerless and cooperate with external actors, which include the United Nations, France, and Russia, to help them curb this situation. But insecurity is a major factor in the military coups that have shaken the region since 2020 in Mali, Burkina Faso, and for other regions, Guinea. So the organizations within there, the inter-regional organizations in West Africa, are closely working hand in hand with international organizations to come to reality with how to deal with the continuous cases of insecurity and political instability. These particular ones have been causing havoc for the business community in those states. That is why they are working hand in hand to ensure that it does not affect them and that people will be okay to live by situations that come by. So that is some of what is coming in from there in West Africa. And surely that is it for SMB International News and Karibu East Africa updates. Just to quickly remind you that more of the business updates can be found onto our website, www.smart24.tv. And then we do have a running YouTube channel, Smart24 TV Live and Smart24 TV. Please do remember to subscribe just in case you missed any program, and of course, any story regarding business and an interview that you would definitely wish to catch up from. But also remember to follow us on our social media platforms, the other different social media platforms, which include Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, for real-time business facts and business updates that you wouldn't wish to miss on that space. That is it for this second hour of the show. When I do return at 8, we have the business tips and the business quote of the day, just to inspire you as you kickstart off your Wednesday morning. Not only that, we've got to look at the social media trends and more of the social media, and more from the business update. But pretty much this time around, looking at the figures from Uganda's corruption fight. And also, we shall be having sports business into the third hour as well, plus the entertainment business. So that and more is a fully packed show for you this morning that you would wish to stick around and watch. Good morning.